everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. We will do a live stream. Let me grab the link for the video. And we will jump in. Let me just post this a few different places. Okay. All right. How's everyone doing? Let's see the comments. Nice chair. The other chair is over there. My wife moved it. Some people have been commenting about chair number 2. It's I guess it's taking a breather from the live streams. Yeah, so so far Bitcoin is in fact still holding the line, as much as it doesn't seem like it is. So far it is. We are coming in at 42.3. I mean, clearly we're between the bull market support band. We're in the bull market support band, right? We're above the 20-week SMA, but we're below the 21-week EMA. Again, if we want to close above the 20-week SMA for the 4th week in a row, we'll need to close above about 40.6K. All right, so we have a little bit of wiggle room to the downside to still be above the 20-week SMA. And then if we want to get really fancy, then we could close above 43.4K by the end of the week, and then we'd actually be above the 21-week EMA, which would probably look pretty good actually if we could do that. Which is not. I mean, it's only about $1,100 higher than we currently are. So again, I wish I had a crystal ball. I wish I could tell you guys if we're going to hold it. I do know that anytime we've tested the 20-week moving average, it never feels like it's going to hold. And then in hindsight, it always seems obvious. Hopefully we hold it. Clearly, the biggest contender right now is the dollar, right? And the dollar has rallied, in fact, up to the 100-week moving average. We mentioned this on a video yesterday that it looks like it's headed there. I didn't really think it was going to get there in a day, but here we are, right? Here we are. It's at the 100-week SMA. It's above the 20-week. It's above the 50-week. We are now at the 100-week. So maybe there's some hope for Bitcoin in the sense of maybe the dollar gets rejected at the 100-week, right? Maybe we'll get rejected there. And if we do, if the dollar does get rejected, then that would be a good thing for Bitcoin. Remember, the dollar going down historically is good for Bitcoin. Okay, I mean, this is the 2020 to early 2021 rally when Bitcoin was going up, the dollar was going down. So remember, the dollar going up is typically bad, especially if it's going up quickly. The dollar going down is good for Bitcoin. So this might be able to explain why the last few weeks for Bitcoin have been somewhat bearish. Okay, the dollar has been moving up. Bitcoin, on the other hand, has been moving down, and we're sort of in this pattern here. But if we go look, let's go look at this chart. The last 4 weeks or so have more or less been down. Of course, we had 1 week that was up. But remember, what did I say? September's never a good month, usually. I mean, the last 4 years, it hasn't been a good month. We've basically seen, on average, in September, including the good months, on average, Bitcoin's September return, I believe, is around -6% in September. Okay, now that doesn't mean that every September is going to be -6. It just means that on average, in September, we see -6% for Bitcoin. And if we go to the monthly time frame, we are currently at -10%. So right now, we still have another day, right? We still have 23 hours to see what we can ultimately close the week out on, the month on, because again, we'll be coming up on the monthly close fairly soon. But right now, we are down 10% on the month. Some people, it feels worse than that, to say 10%. It certainly feels a lot worse than 10%. But there's a reason for that. There's a reason that it feels worse than 10%. And the reason is because in the very first week of September, Bitcoin actually continued to rally, right? It continued to rally in the first week of September. And so from the high that we saw the week of September 6th, Bitcoin is actually down 20%. Okay, so on the month of September as a whole, Bitcoin is only down 10% right now. But as measured from the local high put in during that first or second week of September, we're actually down 20%. So that's why it actually feels worse than 10%. If you're wondering, well, 10% doesn't seem so bad. 10% is just a Tuesday for Bitcoin. But it's actually 20% if you measure it from, say, that local high, which is probably why it feels a little bit worse than just thinking about it being negative 10% for September. So remember, the most bullish scenario that we put out back in July and August, the most bullish scenario was going above the 20-week in August, coming back down to test it as support in September. That was always the most bullish to me. And I said, the most bullish scenario that's realistic is to go above the 20-week in August and then to test it as support in September. Not the most bullish scenario, right? Because the most bullish scenario is we just go straight up, right? We just go straight up and Bitcoin was already trading it at $300,000 or something ridiculous, right? That's the most bullish scenario. But I said the most bullish scenario that's realistic is to actually go back down. Why is it important to go back down? It sort of begs the question, why do we have to go back down? Well, a lot of times what it does, it actually provides confidence to the market, okay? It provides the confidence to the market that the bulls need in order to push higher. There's a lot of bears right now with regards to Bitcoin. And when I say a lot, I mean that's sort of like an understatement, okay? There are a lot of bears. And there are reasons that they're bearish, okay? It's not like we're going to pretend like there aren't reasons. We know there's reasons. I mean, if the dollar continues to rally, that's probably not good for Bitcoin. If we fail to hold, the bull market support band and then we end up, spending a year and a half at much lower valuations, we'll contend they were right. But I would say that I've often wondered what are some things that could cause a lengthened cycle, This might be one of them, right? Like a scenario where it feels like there is a decent chance that, at least a scenario where a lot of people, they look at the chart and they say, well, I mean, we had a pi cycle top, we hit the regression band, we've seen this stuff before. I'd say the major difference between this cycle and in 2017 and 2018 is that, first of all, we had a rounded top. We haven't had a blow-off top or anything. We've also know that historically speaking, the cycles should lengthen. I mean, that's not really that groundbreaking. It's just based on what they've done in the past, right? They should lengthen. And even if you don't believe the cycles will lengthen, if you believe that the 4-year cycle will play out, then it would still make sense for Bitcoin to hold the line, right? It would still make sense for Bitcoin to hold the line at the bull market support band. Because if we fall below the bull market support band, then I feel like the 4-year cycle has got to be out the window at that point. If we go down back to 35K in October or something, then I don't really see how the 4-year cycle is going to hold up anymore. Okay, again, I'm not saying I believe in that one, but we're going to keep an open mind as we head into Q4. So at this point, what we're trying to establish if Bitcoin can hold the line, right? That's what we need to establish. And if it does hold the line, then my guess is that there's going to be a lot of bears sort of second guessing things, and wondering, what's going on? Like why is it not going back down to $10,000 or $15,000? I've said before, a lot of people act way too deterministically in this market. Back in April and May, everyone was calling for $300,000 Bitcoin by the summer, or at least $100,000 Bitcoin by the summer, and then that didn't happen, and we said expect a summer lull. And now a lot of people are calling for for Bitcoin to drop back to $10,000 or $15,000. Which still seems extremely deterministic, right? It still seems extremely deterministic, especially when right now we're still trying to hold support, right? We're trying to hold support on the bull market support band. This is the line in the sand that we would like to stay above, okay? And again, it ranges from around 40K to 43K. 40.6 up to 43.4, something in that ballpark, right? So that's where we'd like to hold the line. That's where we'd like to hold the line. And note that the 20-week moving average is going to start turning up soon. Okay, so this is good news for the bulls. Why is it good news? Well, ideally we'd like to see the 20-week start to move up. Okay, we don't want to chase it down. We'd rather see it continue to move up. So if Bitcoin is able to hold the line, by the way, if you guys are not subscribed, make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Let's go for 1,000 likes and whatnot. But if Bitcoin is able to stay up in this region, then it's only a matter of 1 or 2 weeks before we start to see the 20-week curl back up. It's not going to take long, right? It's not going to take long. Now, I mean, the 20-week going up doesn't mean we technically have to hold it, but it certainly looks a lot better than the 20-week going down, right? Like we'd rather the 20-week moving average look something like this, where it's trending higher, not where we're chasing it down. No one wants to chase the 20-week moving average down, you know? So if Bitcoin holds the line here, then we'll see the 20-week start to roll back up to the upside. And the reason we know that is just going 20 weeks back, right? It's just going 20 weeks back and seeing that we are in fact on this last candle here. Okay, so right now we're going to be replacing, you know, this candle with one over here, and so we're lowering the valuation, we're lowering the price that's going into that calculation of the 20-week moving average. Therefore, it would go lower if we're lower than that price by the end of the week. But beyond that, we should start to see it go back up, because then we're going to be only looking at valuations down here and up here. And because if the price is holding the line, obviously it's a big if, but if the price is holding the line above the 20-week, then the 20-week's only it's going to have no choice but to start moving back up. Okay? And that is what we want to keep an eye on, right? We want to see if the 20-week can start turning back up and Bitcoin can continue to ride it upwards. This would be the ideal scenario. And it would probably provide a lot of confidence to the market. You know, I think it would provide a lot of confidence if we could see the 20-week moving average start to move back up and Bitcoin continue to move higher. Now, a lot of people would like to say, well, what is the successful test of the 20-week? Like, what needs to happen before we can say, all right, that was a good test of it. We don't need to test it anymore for a while. Let's just move on for maybe 2 to 3 months at the very least, and let's just have some clear skies. Well, one of the things I would say is that we would like to, if we're being conservative, right? If we're being conservative, we would like to take this out, right? We'd like to take this local high out. If we can take that local high out, then I feel like we can look back and say, all right, guys, it was a clear and successful test of the 20-week moving average. You know, we've taken the local high out. This is you can no longer claim that it's just a dead cat bounce and whatnot. And we should ultimately be able to then make a run for the title, right? And the title being 64K, okay? So that is ultimately what we're looking for. We're looking to see if Bitcoin can actually get back above 53K. So from this level, we need to rally about $10,000. All right, so Bitcoin, we need to go up about $10,000 or so to get back up to this level. Now, if we want to be a little bit more, let's say, less conservative with what we're saying it has to do to say it's a successful test, this is looking at it on the daily time frame. Just doesn't have it all filled in, but you can see that's pretty much what the 20-week moving average is doing right now. So far, we've held it as support a number of times, in fact, right? We held it as support here. We held the bull market support band as support here, and then we've been holding it as support here and here as well. So you can see that the price of Bitcoin is continuing to bounce off the 20-week. And I've seen some people say, well, you know, why is Bitcoin not doing anything? It's because this is a critical test. Like the tests of the 20-week moving average, they're not just something that happen in an hour. They're not something that happens in a day. It happens over a multi-week time frame. Sometimes it can last over a month, right? And this is already our 4th week. We're in our 4th week at this point of testing it. So we'll continue to keep a close eye on this level, because ideally we'd like to hold it. And so, okay, some people might not want to hold it, right? Some people would prefer another lull in the market, keep accumulating and whatnot, and that's fine. That's fine. There's room for that if it happens. If it holds, though, then the people waiting for these much lower valuations are probably going to be the ones to help fuel the rally. And I mean, you can't really blame them, right? I don't really feel like you can blame them if they just don't want to take the risk on, and they'd rather wait for some resolution to what's going on with Bitcoin rather than say betting the family farm or something, when it's still relatively unclear. I mean, again, I ultimately think the cycles will lengthen, but we'll take this 1 week at a time. So yeah, so certainly keep an eye on the dollar. Let's see if it gets rejected here at the 100 week. Okay, the 100 week is at 94.333. Okay, so that's maybe where you want to keep an eye on for the dollar, the U.S. dollar currency index. Hopefully we see some type of rejection there, and then Bitcoin can get back on its feet a little bit. This is actually a pretty nice move by Bitcoin here over the last few hours. We've tested these lows many times. I'm surprised you guys aren't filling my Twitter up with Wyckoff accumulation again when looking at stuff like this. But this is the 1 hour chart. So again, you definitely should not take this one to the bank. Let's see if we can push above these levels. 43.5, 43.6 might be an interesting area to watch out for if we come back up to it in the short term. Because if we just keep getting rejected by it, then we'll have to continue playing around in this area down here, which I know makes everyone super uncomfortable when we're in that area. Now Ethereum now is coming in at $29.80. Okay, so right now Ethereum's at $2,980. I've been pretty clear on my expectations for Ethereum. I think what happens between now and the end of the year is irrelevant. Right? It's irrelevant what happens with Ethereum between now and the end of the year. Just look at it. I would say look at it as an opportunity. If price goes up between now and the end of the year, you can DCA through it. If price goes down between now and the end of the year, you can DCA through it. But I would say Q4 2021 for Ethereum is if Bitcoin goes up, we know Ether will go up as well, right? We know that, but we also know that a lot of times the major Ethereum moves come in Q1 and they can then extend into Q2 if the market conditions are right? So they come in Q1 and Q2. That's just historically speaking. Could it come sooner? It could, right? It could, but I told you guys back in April and May not to get your hopes up for Ethereum for the rest of the year, right? I said that back in April and May. I was like, hey guys, look, we've been trending up for a long time. Ethereum tends to not do so well once you really get into the June and July timeframe, right? It doesn't really tend to do so well during that timeframe. We also have seen it many, many times kind of just sit humdrum, even in Q3 and in Q4. Now, last Q4, Ethereum went up, okay? And Ethereum, and the reason why it went up is because Bitcoin was trending up, right? I mean, Ethereum went from, if we go to October, it started at like 350. And by the end of the year, it was trading for about $700. So Ethereum was able to put in a 2x during Q4 of 2021. Okay, it was able to put in 2x. But Bitcoin, let's go look at Bitcoin. So we'll switch this over to the weekly. So let's go see what Bitcoin was doing in Q4. So Q4, Bitcoin started at 10K, and then by the end of December, it was at 32K. Okay, so Bitcoin outperformed Ethereum in Q4. It's just a fact, right? It's just a fact. This is what it's always done. Now, it begs the question, right? Is it going to outperform Ethereum this Q4? I mean, I based on historical data, the historical data would suggest that Bitcoin is more likely to outperform Ethereum in Q4, but that Ethereum is more likely to outperform Bitcoin in Q1. That's just what the historical data would have us believe, okay? Now, with that said, that doesn't mean that it always has to play out like that. We've gone in 2019, we went into Q4 with this mentality. In 2019, we said, all right, guys, if it goes down in Q4, what does it mean? It means we get a January rally. Ether Bitcoin will likely rally in January if we get a Q4 bleed of Ethereum Bitcoin. And what happened in Q4 of 2019? We saw Ether Bitcoin bleed, and then in January we said expect a surge. pretty clean, right? It's just a lot of crypto is just a lot of if-then statements. It's just if-then. If you're a programmer, you probably like crypto, right? It's just a lot of if-then statements. And then in 2020, what did I say? I said as we go into Q4, Ethereum is likely to bleed against Bitcoin. And if it does, then all it does is set up a pretty great Q1. That's all it does. It does not set up, it is not bad. It just means Ethereum is biding its time. It's letting the king run. It's paying its respects to the king, but that Ethereum will have its day. And then by April, a lot of people in YouTube and whatnot, on YouTube and on Twitter, were saying things like, Ethereum's dead, it's never going to do anything. And I told you, no, the Ethereum tsunami is coming, right? You just have to give it time. Bitcoin's the earthquake, and then it sets in motion the Ethereum tsunami that ultimately sweeps through, okay? So, what are we looking for then? Well, hey guys, look, we're entering Q4, right? Q4 starts tomorrow. In less than 24 hours. Okay, this is UTC time. So less than 24 hours, Q4 starts. And the question on everyone's mind is, well, is Ethereum going to do that thing where it bleeds against Bitcoin in Q4? And I wish I could tell you. I wish I could. My thinking on it is it's largely irrelevant. I don't really care if it does. If it does, then I'm just going to go a lot bigger on Ether in December. Okay, so if it does bleed, if you're a programmer and you're putting these into your mind, all you got to think about is if Ether Bitcoin bleeds in Q4, then it's likely going to rally in January. So remember that, right? Remember that in December if that's what happens. If it doesn't do that, and Ether Bitcoin just sort of does this thing where it goes up in Q4, then all bets are off, right? Then at that point, we're completely in uncharted territory, right? No pun intended. Completely in uncharted territory with Ether Bitcoin. And we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens because we've never seen that before going into Q4. It's been about, let's go take a look here. For Ether Bitcoin, it hasn't put in a new all-time high, or a new local high, I should say, for 20 weeks, right? It's been 20 weeks at this point since Ether Bitcoin was at a new local high. So it has been a while. We'll see what happens here as we head into Q4. And it should be interesting because, Bitcoin does tend to like to take over in Q4, whether that means it dumps or it pumps. It tends to like to take over. So we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens with Bitcoin. And then see what happens with Ethereum. Is it going to follow suit? Is it going to pump with Bitcoin if Bitcoin pumps? If Bitcoin dumps, we know Ethereum will probably dump harder. So I think the main way that an Ether Bitcoin doesn't is if somehow Bitcoin maybe moves up and then doesn't go parabolic. Like if it goes back up to 50K and then hangs out there, maybe if it goes 10, 15, 20% above the 20-week moving average, hangs out there, then Ethereum Bitcoin is likely going to move. But I don't know. I don't know the likelihood of that scenario playing out. It seems like a very unlikely scenario that Bitcoin would just kind of sit still in Q4, 20% above the 20-week SMA, and not do anything. All right. What questions do you guys have? Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed. Give the video a thumbs up. What else you guys want to talk about? What shirt is this? This is just a Cryptoverse shirt. You can find the merchandise in a link in the description, I believe. If you're looking for a shirt, the opportunity cost is kind of high because you could just invest your money instead. But if you're looking, if you don't own a shirt or something and you need a shirt, you can find one in the description below. Did I attend the Cardano Summit? No, I did not. Someone says I need a haircut. Yes, I do. Someone says they know I day trade. No, I do not. I would only lose money if I tried to day trade, so I can assure you I do not do that. Where is the volume going to come from to make this bull scenario again? Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe some institutions announcing they're buying Bitcoin, maybe an ETF, regulation clarity for crypto. I don't know. It's got to come from somewhere. Hopefully, we get some big news in Q4. Is the monthly close in the bull market support been relevant, or is it mainly the weekly close? I would say it's more so the weekly close, not the monthly close. Where do I think T. Reezy has been? Oh, that's a good question. We should ask him. Can you get a shirt in the United Kingdom? Yeah, you can. Can ADA close in on ETH in Q4? Like, I don't think ADA is gonna flip Ethereum this cycle. Like, I don't. I won't. I just don't think ADA is gonna flip Ethereum. Um, I don't see it happening. And I'll say I don't think it's going to happen this cycle. Like, I feel like I can fairly confidently say that. And a lot of the Cardano bulls don't like it when I say that, and I like to remind them that I still have videos where I was promoting ADA at 2 cents, and then the people that bought it at $2 give me crap for saying it's probably not going to flip Ethereum this cycle. Look, I don't think it's going to flip Ethereum this cycle. I think that Cardano does have a lot of great things going for it, and I think the community's great. I think the network activity should increase with time. I'm excited to explore DeFi on Cardano, but I don't think it's going to surpass Ethereum this cycle. Like, I just don't, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing. I just think that's just sort of how I see the market, right? I don't see it flipping it. What do I eat? Food is expensive. Actually, I haven't even eaten dinner tonight. I just realized I haven't eaten dinner. Um, yeah, I think the last time I ate was like 8 hours ago. So I should probably eat something before I go to sleep tonight. But uh, there's opportunity cost with everything, right? I'm not a breakfast guy. Actually, I like never eat breakfast. I think I eat breakfast maybe like 5 days of the year, and it's just like random time. If I'm on vacation, maybe I would eat breakfast on vacation. But no, normally I just wake up, I start working on stuff, and then I eat lunch, right? I eat lunch, and uh, that's lunch is usually the first thing I eat each day. I should eat breakfast. I probably should, but I don't, except if I'm on like vacation or something. Yeah, you guys are making me hungry now because it's been a while since I ate anything. What software do you use to make the charts? You can pretty easily use Python. Python's fairly intuitive as well. So yeah. Someone says the four dislikes clearly are people that buy high, sell low. The thing I love about the dislikes is that it still actually helps with the YouTube algorithm. Like they'd be if they didn't like my content, they'd be better off just not interacting with the video. But by interacting with the video, it only actually helps it. Ethereum short-term prediction. As I said before, with Ethereum, I think what happens in Q4 is irrelevant. Or I really do. Like whatever happens in Q4, I don't think it's the market cycle peak for Ethereum. You know, if we go down, if we go up, I think Q4 is irrelevant. Usually Q4 is just the time to DCA ETH, right? I mean, historically speaking, Q4 is the time to DCA Ethereum. It's just the truth. I mean, it's just what we've seen. Like, if you only ever DCA'd Ethereum in any quarter ever, like, I have to actually go back and look. But I mean, Ethereum, the reason why I say Q4 is just because it usually does really well in Q1 and Q2. Not always Q2, but a lot of times in Q1. So DCAing Ethereum in Q4 tends to be a pretty good move. So, you know, what's going to happen in the short term? I think we're either going to hold the bull market support band and slowly trend back higher over several weeks or months, back up to $4,000, and we break it. Or I think Bitcoin fails to hold the 20-week. Ethereum goes back down and gets wrecked in the short term in Q4, and then still goes up in next year to put in new all-time highs. So I think no matter what happens, I do believe Ethereum will put in new all-time highs next year. And if it holds the bull market support band as support, then it could even put in new all-time highs this year. But I don't think it's going to go parabolic this year. I think it'll probably go. I think it's more likely to put in more impressive moves in 2022 than 2021. But I could be wrong, right? I mean, like I've been wrong before about things. I don't want to give people the impression that I know exactly what's going to happen, because I don't. I really don't. But that's sort of what I'm looking at is either of these two scenarios. So scenario one is this one. So if I just sort of overlay it here, that's sort of scenario one. So making that sort of a move where we saw it, we saw it go up, and then it came up, it came back down, it came back up. So this is the more bearish scenario for Ethereum, where it ultimately fails to hold the bull market support band and gets some type of major capitulation, and then it takes off. So this would be scenario one. And then the other scenario would be something like this, where it came up, and I'll switch this to a different color, and I'll make it this color. So this is sort of the other potential scenario I'm leaning towards. Sorry, I'm having trouble moving this around, but I don't know why it's not showing up, but something like that, where it comes up and it it just holds the bull market support band and then ultimately trends up in Q1. So my thinking on it is generally just that it doesn't really matter, and that whatever happens in Q4 is likely, it should be just considered like an opportunity, right? It should be considered an opportunity, and nothing too much crazier than that. So that would be the more bullish scenario, right? Where instead of having that capitulation and then going up, it just holds it and then goes up. That would be the more bullish scenario. So that's what I'm looking for with Ethereum. I get it, guys. There's a lot of people that are calling this a multi-year bear market. I don't think so. And I also say that as one of the few people who told you to expect that dump, right? I said expect a 3 to 6 month bear market there. I don't remember a lot of people saying that back then. I think the worst case scenario for Bitcoin, like worst case, is we fail to hold it. We get one more big dump, and then we are back off to the races, right? That would be like the worst case scenario that I could see for Bitcoin. And I mean, if that happens, it would certainly not be comfortable, right? Like it wouldn't be comfortable for people. But you also have to recognize that if these things do happen, it's typically those capitulations that catalyze new moves in the market. So if it did something like that, right? Like if Bitcoin ended up having some major capitulation down, I think it would actually be really short-lived, and we would just come straight back up really quickly, maybe even by the end of the year. And then continue along our way. So this would sort of be like worst case scenario I would see for Bitcoin. Something similar to that. But this is only if the 20-week doesn't hold, right? This would be if the 20-week doesn't hold. If the 20-week holds, then I don't really see Ethereum going below, much below its own bull market support band. It'll probably hold it generally as support as long as Bitcoin is holding its own 20-week SMA as support. Again, if you're curious what the 20-week SMA is for Ethereum right now, it's at 27.27. The 21-week EMA is at 28.10. So those are the lines in the sand to look for. What about the stock market crash? You know, the problem with people talking about the stock market is that no matter when they talk about it, there's always a lot of YouTubers calling for a dump. They're calling for a bear market. They're calling for a stock market crash. They call for it all the time, and eventually they're right? Eventually they're right, and then they claim glory on it. But think about how often they're wrong. Like, think about everyone who called for a recession in March of 2020. Think about everyone who called for a depression in March of 2020. If you don't believe me, just go back and look at crypto, or go back and look at YouTube back in March and April of 2020. Most people were calling for a recession or a depression. Why do they do this? Well, I'll give you a little insight into how YouTube, how it works, right? So a lot of these guys, they make their money on AdSense, okay? And remember, on AdSense has been disabled on this channel, okay? And it's purposely disabled because why? It enables, in my opinion, it enables a negative feedback loop, okay? And that feedback loop is this. I'll show you, or I'll try to explain it as best as I can. Okay, so again, just to prove that I'm not just blowing smoke, here you can see we've had AdSense off the entire time, right? This is our lifetime for the channel. Almost 48 million views, 6 million watched hours, 553,000 subscribers, estimated revenue 0. The reason you see these people calling for, for any time the market moves, in March and April of 2020, everyone's calling for a recession and a depression. Why? Because all they're doing is they're simply telling you what you fear. Okay, they're basically playing on your emotions. And at the time, everyone was fearful. So all they do, right, all they say, all right, stock market's going to crash, and it's going to go down for the next 5 years. We're going to have a recession. We're going to have a depression, and those videos get tons of views. That's what they want, right? They want views because they make all their money from getting views on YouTube, right? Through AdSense, okay? And it's a negative feedback loop. So if they make a sensational video, then they get more views. If they get more views, they make more money on AdSense because for some reason you guys click on the ads. I have no idea why, but that's what happens. And it's just sort of like a negative feedback loop. So I would say that most of these guys, all they ever do is propagate the way that you're currently feeling, and they'll call for a stock market crash forever. There was also a lot of people calling for a stock market crash back in January of 2021. Or has everyone forgotten? You guys remember when GameStop was taking off and so many things, so many meme stocks were just going through the roof and whatnot? And a lot of major stock analysts were saying, all right, we're about to have a major stock market crash. I don't know about you guys, but I don't see any stock market crash in January. I haven't seen a stock market crash in a long time. I haven't, okay? I mean, maybe they're living in a different universe than I am, but as far as I can tell, we haven't had a stock market crash in a long time. A lot of people assume that the stock market is going to dump 40% every single year. These types of dumps are just simply not that common. Like, they're just not that common. 40% drops in the stock market do not happen that frequently. Could we have a drop, a 10 to 15% drop? Yes, we could, right? We could have those. Could it temporarily make people in generally riskier assets like crypto a little bit bearish in the short term? Yes, of course. Are we going to have a crash in the stock market that's going to take us down 40 or 50% and send us into another recession in the short term? Probably not, right? Probably not. And you know what? If the stock market has taught us anything over the last several decades, is that the bulls are sometimes right and the bears are sometimes right. But if you only had to be one, it would be a lot better to be a bull than to be a bear. Okay? Because if you just spend your entire life waiting for the stock market to crash to have a position, then you're essentially just going to grow old waiting for it to happen. The better solution, I think, for the stock market is just DCA in if you don't have a position, and it generally trends up with time, right? I mean, again, you should treat it differently than crypto. With the stock market, you don't have to be so concerned that you're gonna wake up one day and it's gonna be down 80%, like it happened with some of your altcoins. Um, but it's just a long game, right? The stock market's a long game. So I get that a lot of people are calling for a stock market crash. Hey, maybe they're right. But I've also heard the same people call for the same crash for the last 18 months, and they've been wrong for the last 18 months. So if they get it right now, then congratulations to them for finally being right after 18 months. But it still probably will never, or at least in the short term, it won't make it to those valuations that they kept saying it was going to go down from. Okay, back in March of 2020, when the stock market, the SP 500 was all the way down here, the SPY was all the way down here at 228. They were calling for lower prices and lower prices. I don't know if we'll ever make it back to that level. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I certainly wouldn't bet my positions on making it back to those levels. So that's the thing. It's like, even if they are eventually right, even if we do get a correction, it still is probably going to keep trending higher with time. Okay, that's my argument with the stock market. And I'm not going to feed you any sensationalist BS. To prey on your emotions and whatnot. So yes, people are calling for a stock market crash. They also called for it last week. They also called for it last month. They called for it last quarter. They called for it last year. They always call for it. Eventually they'll be right, and they'll cash in on being right for the next 5 years until it happens again. So let's go back to Bitcoin. So right now Bitcoin's trading at 42.8. So it's doing fairly well right now. It's given us a little bit of wiggle room from the 20-week moving average, which is nice. We have that going for us, which is nice. In terms of a percentage off the 20-week, I mean, you can see that the wick has actually taken us right down to the 20-week moving average right here. So there are definitely some bulls at the 20-week trying to, in fact, hold the line, okay? So this will be the area to watch. We'll see if we can hold the line. We would expect this to level off in the next few weeks if Bitcoin stays above the 20 week. So be on the lookout for that. Someone says it's crazy how Bitcoin is going to go to 300K by September 28th. Yeah, I guess we'd have to go back in time. Yeah, we are almost out of September, right? We made a video a while back saying "Wake me up when September ends." Hopefully, October brings better days. It certainly would at least be. I mean, even if we do end up heading down, for a couple more months or something, it would be nice to at least get some temporary relief, because it has been a pretty brutal September. I mean, most of it has just been red. How is the quarterly? Yeah, we can go look at those. It's somewhat interesting to look at these longer time frame candles, right? So this is the quarterly candle. So, we had 4 up, a red one. This was the red one, April, May, and June. And now we have July, August, and September, and it's going to be coming to a close fairly soon. And we'll start a new quarterly candle. You can see how different this is than 2017, right? I mean, 2017 did not have a Q3 candle that was bad. In fact, it was up 76.5%. Okay, this Q3 was only up 22%. Q2 for that year was up 127%. Our Q2 this year was down 40%. There's a lot of things between 2017 and 2021 that are just completely different, right? Again, as I've said forever, it looks more like 2013 than 2020 and 2017, right? It looks a lot more like that. And even this one in 2013, it had no red quarter. It was all green. which I feel like further provides evidence that it's a stretched out version of 2013 and not an identical copy of 2013. Michael says the shirts are nice. My wife took mine. Yeah, actually, my wife, she bought the jacket, the Into the Cryptoverse jacket, and she actually wears it all the time. Like, she says it's comfortable. I don't really wear it that much because it's not like I'm not that cold. I'll probably wear it more when it gets cold outside, but um, yeah. Again, if you guys want to get if you want to get a T-shirt, you can. Um, you can also wait until the cycle's over if you want to, consider the opportunity cost. I didn't sell one to no, I didn't. No, I ordered some for her, and now she's like she wears these shirts all the time. Did I say that she paid for the jacket? I don't remember saying that. She didn't pay for the jacket. Is the stock to flow model still valid? I don't know. Um, I mean, I think that a lot of people, the model used to assume 4 years, right? A lot of people don't want to talk about that, but it used to be a 4-year cycle model, or at least that was what was discussed a couple years ago. Now it's turned into, it's okay for lengthening cycles because I mean, again, you're not going to have an average price of Bitcoin of $100,000 for the next 3 years if you don't have a lengthened cycle. If we just go up to 150K in December and then we crash back down to 50K and then spend a couple years there, you're not going to have an average price of $100,000. So and I spoke to Plan B, and he said that I mean, for us to reach these levels, for us to reach these average price targets of either 100K or 288K, we have to have a lengthened cycle, right? I mean, how are you going to get an average price of Bitcoin of $100,000 or $288,000 for this cycle when we're not even at those prices yet, right? Like, those are average price targets. Those aren't market cycle peaks for the stock to flow model. The stock to flow model does not predict market cycle peaks, right? It predicts average prices. So I would say that the stock to flow model, as originally people interpreted it, which I would say they originally interpreted it wrong, including me, is that, okay, no, it's not going to have the stock to flow model. If we have a blow off top this year, then I don't see how the average price of Bitcoin is going to be 100K. Like, I don't see how it's possible for it to be 100K. But if we get a lengthened cycle, then maybe. And if you go on Twitter and look at his stuff, he'll admit that he thinks that the cycle will lengthen. We had a video with Plan B a while back, and he says he thinks there's a good chance it'll lengthen. Because again, at this point, you're not going to get to the more lofty valuations that the stock to flow model gives, like 288,000 as an average price this year. It's just very, very difficult to do so. And even if you did get to $288,000 this year, again, this is one of the things that he stressed in the video. 288 is not a peak prediction. It's an average prediction. So a lot of people have this misconception that the stock to flow model is predicting peaks, but he's actually very adamant that the stock to flow model does not predict peaks. It predicts averages. So I don't think the stock to flow model is currently broken as interpreted that way. I don't know what'll happen in the next 2 years, but I think for now you can still say it's intact, especially now that it seems to it seems to be in agreement with the idea that cycles lengthen. Because again, if you don't have a lengthened cycle, you're not going to have an average Bitcoin price of 100K, right? You're just simply not. So again, I mean, right now Bitcoin's trading at $42,000 and we're going into Q4. Okay, so how's the average price going to be 100K if the market cycle peak comes in 3 months? Maybe the blow off top would be 100K or 150K or something, but you're not going to have an average price of 100K. No, I don't think we're going to go higher than 288K. I'm just telling you what Plan B told me when he was on my channel. He said we could go as high as 500K. In accordance with the stock to flow cross asset model. So there's the stock to flow model, there's the stock to flow cross asset model. The stock to flow model says that the average price is 100K. The stock to flow cross asset model says the average price is 288K. So in order to have an average price of 288K, you have to go significantly above 288K. Otherwise, how the hell are you going to have an average price of 288? So no, I'm not saying that it's going to go to an average price of 280. I'm just telling you that someone asked if the stock to flow model has been invalidated, and as of right now, I don't think it has. Like, I don't think you can say that it has. I think we'll have to wait and see what happens over the next 1 to 2 years before we can really make any claims on it being invalid or not. So I think the projections, of a 288,000, an average price of Bitcoin of 288K this cycle, I think that's too lofty of a projection. But technically speaking, I don't think it's invalid yet. I don't think it's invalid. I think it's more likely, like if I had to pick one, I would say stock to flow is going to be a lot more accurate than stock to flow X. Like the stock to flow cross asset model, I think is way too optimistic. But the stock to flow model, an average price of 100K, especially with the idea that the cycle lengthens, yeah, it's possible. It's certainly possible. Stock to flow cross asset of average of 288K, I don't see it. I don't see that one happening. Not this cycle. I think we'll make it there. I think Bitcoin will make it to 300K and beyond, but I think it'll be next cycle, not this cycle. Yeah, that's one of the things too. It's like I don't think Bitcoin's gonna go to 500K this cycle. I don't think it's gonna go to 300K. I don't think it's gonna go to 400K. But if it does, I mean, great, great. I'll wipe away the tears of being wrong with all the money that I will make by Bitcoin going to $300,000. So again, I don't think it's gonna go to these valuations, but a lot of people do, and I guess they have their own reasons for it. So I will see if it happens. Just to give you an idea of what Bitcoin would have to do to get to 300K by the end of the year. I just want to show you, okay? I just want to show you to give you an idea of how hard it would be to do. This is the chart for Bitcoin, all right? This is January 1st. That's January 1st, okay? Of 2022. That is 300K. Okay, so again, there's a lot of people calling for 300K by the end of the year because they're saying that Q4 is going to take us up to $300,000. I want to show you what Bitcoin would have to do. That's what it would have to do. So Bitcoin would have to climb this wall right here. So if it made it to 300K here by January 1st, they're right. By the end of December, then they're right. Right? They're right. It looks like a tall order to me. It looks like a really tall order to me. Even if you were to overlay, let's say the move from September until April, if you overlaid that now, you still wouldn't make it there by the end of the year, right? You could make it there potentially by the summer of 2022 if we were to exactly emulate what happened already, but you wouldn't make it there by the end of the year. And that's assuming we go up, we start moving up immediately. Right, that's assuming we start moving up immediately. So I know there's a lot of people calling for 300K by the end of the year. I just want to show you that why it's going to be very difficult for that to happen, because you'd have to come up to that point right there, and you don't really have a lot of time to make it there, right? You only have 3 months, so you'd essentially be looking at a price appreciation of Bitcoin of 600%. In 3 months. You'd be looking at 600% in 3 months. It seems too optimistic. I think it's a little bit too optimistic for me. But I just wanted to give you guys, the idea of why I think it's not likely. Just look at what it would have to do to get there. I think if I wanted to cover all my bases and argue against myself, if I wanted to play devil's advocate and say, well, let's say Bitcoin does go to 300K by the end of the year. Find a reason why it would. Well, I guess you go to 2013 and you say rather than this cycle being a stretched out version of 2013, what if it just emulates it now until the end of the year, and then we have a market cycle peak? So if you were to take that bar pattern, let's see what it would look like. Then you would get there, okay? And then you would get there. So if I had to play devil's advocate against myself and figure out a way for Bitcoin to get to 300K, well, we would just say it's going to emulate 2013 from this point forward. The problem, now playing devil's advocate against that devil's advocate, right? The problem with that is that the second move assumes that Bitcoin can emulate exactly that second move. But Bitcoin was not able to emulate the first move. So why should we assume it can emulate the second one? Again, for it to have emulated the first move, Bitcoin would have already gone to $500,000 this cycle, right? It would have already gone to that level, but it didn't make it there. So why would we assume that the second leg would make it all the way up just like the first leg, just like the first leg? So this is the whole cycle. So again, if you overlay the first leg, from say the bottom over here, we didn't make it to 500 or 400K already, which would then imply the second leg would take us up to 2 million. So why would we assume that the second leg of that part of that cycle, why would we assume that we can just overlay that for the next 3 months and say that it's going to go to 300K? That's why I'm skeptical. If the first move couldn't emulate if the first move of this cycle couldn't emulate the first move of the last cycle, why are we going to assume the second move can? That would be my best argument against it being an exact copy of 2013. But I want you guys to understand why some people are calling for 300K by the end of the year. They're essentially saying that this move is going to play out exactly again, and we're going to have a month where Bitcoin goes up like 400% or something. Okay, so that's why they think the way they do. I've tried to explain why I think they're wrong, but then I've also played devil's advocate against myself to give you an idea of why they think they're right. So that covers that. Close September above 43K, have a dump to 37, 38K in the first few days of October, and then a massive rally to close October above 63. Yeah, maybe. That's possible. I mean, to close October above 63... a lot of this is contingent on us holding the line, right? We would like to hold the line. If we don't hold the line, then we're kicking the can down the road, right? Yeah, so, for us to get to, you're saying 63K, I'm assuming you're just sort of referring to the prior all-time high, which is around 64K. Yeah, for us to get to that level from current prices, we'd have to rally up 52% in October. So I guess the question is a 52% rally, is it reasonable? I think the best thing to do for that is just go back and look at other monthly candles and say, is a 50% rally by Bitcoin in a single month, is it possible? And we go look, and we say, well, let's look at what we've done last year. Let's look at what we did earlier this year and last year. This was a 28% move. This was a 43%. This one was 47. This one was 37, 30. So we had one that was 47%. So, is it possible that Bitcoin could rally 50% in October? Yeah, I'd say it's in the realm of possibility. Like, it's in the realm of possibility for it to happen. So I'm not gonna completely discount Bitcoin from putting in a new all-time high in November, right? If you're saying 60, if the idea is you rally to the all-time high in October and then you take it out in November, yeah, it's possible. It would basically be about as bullish as we can be, because you're talking about putting in a candle that is, higher than what we already did in December of 2020 and doing that in October. It is possible. So yeah, I won't say that one's impossible. I would say a 400% move or a 600% move to emulate 2013 is highly unlikely, but a 50% move, Yeah, I think a 50% move is still in the cards if Bitcoin holds the line. Like it's all contingent on Bitcoin holding the line. And even if it does move back up to 64K, that doesn't necessarily mean it has to do so by the end of October. I mean, it could happen in November for all we know. And maybe it'll take it until December to reach that level. Yeah, I'd say it's possible to hit it in October or to come close to it if Bitcoin holds the line. Remember, we do have the premium list. You can find a link to that at intothecryptoverse.com if you want to know how I'm navigating these markets. We have weekly reports and videos, the Telegram alerts channel, the Telegram chat room, the risk dashboard, and more. Check it out, intothecryptoverse.com. Yeah, I mean, for now, a lot of people are talking about new all-time highs and whatnot. I think the more important thing right now is just see if we hold the line. You know, I mean, a lot of people want to get ahead of themselves and say, all right, we're going to go up, 500% by the end of the year. Let's just see if we can hold the damn line first, right, before we get too carried away. This is the important test that we need to get past. This is like the boss that we have to get past. So let's do that. Let's do that before getting too carried away on calling new all-time highs. Yeah, we can look at the Cowan corridor. Let's pull it up. All right, here it is. So it did a fairly decent job of finding the bottom. And now it has the price bounded by 26K to the bottom up to 100K to the top. Okay, so it's bound between 26K and 100K. 26 to 100K are now the bounds on this corridor. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible we spend a good part of October trying to hold the line as well, even in a bullish scenario where we ultimately hold it. Remember, back in this year, 2020, we held it for about 6 weeks, and the rally didn't really start until like, close to the middle of October, right? I mean, the rally really started here when we broke past 12K. This was actually at the very end of, or say the middle of October is when it really started to pick up and take out these prior local highs. We actually spent a lot of October near the bull market support band or within a few percentage points of it. Minimum Bitcoin a person must hold. That's not that kind of a question. It just depends on each person, right? You don't have a one. There's not one good solution for how much Bitcoin someone should hold. Yeah, it's still not time to get out of bed, my friends. Really, we should be asleep right now because we said wake us up when September ends. We're not even out of September yet. All right, guys, why don't we wrap it up there? Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, click the bell icon to turn on notifications. We also do have a Telegram channel. I'm going to post it. It's a different channel than I normally post. It's an alerts channel. So if you want to get alerts when I'm, It's not always videos. Sometimes it's other things. I'll post that in the comments. So make sure you guys join that. There's also a chat room to go with it with almost 50,000 people. So I'm just gonna post that one a few times. But I think we'll wrap it up there. Definitely subscribe. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you next time. Bye.